Hey everybody, it's Greg Rice. We're here at Balkun Title and Closings headquarters in Warwick, Rhode Island. We're with the owner, the operator, Dan Balkun.
How are you, sir?
How's it going?
Nice to see you, Greg.
Nice to see you too. And today, before we get going, this is an away game for me, alright? I don't have the home field advantage, so take it easy on me. I want to jump right in though. We met before doing business together.
Yes. Actually, before
Before Nexus existed.
Yeah, right. Real estate, right?
Yep.
So yeah, we met through a mutual friend. You were
Which
helping
is?
DJ Delicious.
Shout out to Michael
Mike
Mancini.
Mancini, absolutely. You're putting us together years and years and years ago.
Yep.
And I remember being introduced to you, and we were talking, and you're like, "Hey, I'm going to get my real estate license, and I'll give you a call." And I believe, God, it feels like a year or two probably went by.
Yep.
And then out of the blue, who calls me? Greg Rice. Says, "Hey Dan, I got my license. If you remember me,
Yep.
love to start working with you." And then obviously the rest is history.
For sure.
Because how long have you actually been running Nexus?
7 years.
Yeah, so I lose track of time, right?
Is that
I
crazy?
think I had a lot more darker here. I was more pepper.
A little more salt.
Now I'm
at
a
the
little
moment.
now I'm a little more salt. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how we met. We were introduced to a friend. He was DJing a party, and here we are, probably 10 years later now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Rhode Island?
Grew up in Rhode Island.
Born and bred?
Born and bred in Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah.
What street?
God. Well, we moved around a lot as kids. Initially grew up in Webster Avenue, and went to Webster Avenue School, which is over towards like Silver Lake,
Okay.
the Silver Lake area, Providence. And then moved to the other side of Providence, somewhere around second or third grade, over off of Douglas Avenue, Vesey Street, that area.
Wow.
And then we moved to Warwick in half of sixth grade. So sixth grade, my family moved to Warwick. They bought a single family home, and the culture shock started. Just a big difference between inner city and Warwick,
Sure.
as far as, but hey, you play sports, you're a kid, everything goes well.
So Michael Mancini, our good friend, he said that in high school, your house was the house to beat. It was party at Big Dan's house.
After high school.
After high school. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of the guys that we know, and you know as well, I used to throw a couple of summer bashes, I would
That's
say,
cool.
to have that. So yeah, Mike and I met through some friends that, Tommy Pildarian, that owns the Cozy Grill,
Yep.
and some of Michael Rogers, a lot of our friends. So
Cool.
that's how I met Michael.
And what year, when did you start to get involved in the business?
So I was formally introduced to the real estate business in 2004, November. So I'm coming up on 16 years being in the business this November.
And what were you doing before then?
Well, before that I was a correctional officer, so
No
kind of a
kidding.
weird dynamic of,
Really?
yeah, I was a correctional officer at the ACI in Cranston, Rhode Island. Was in that gig for about 7 years, roughly, about 7 years.
Medium, min, max?
Well, it started off, I was at high security or Supermax during a probation period for about 8 months, and then moved over to the intake security or intake service center, and was there for a very long time, almost the remainder of my job there. Yeah.
And what
and
made
just-
you get into that? I mean, that's kind of an odd, for knowing you now,
Yeah.
to see you that like that, it doesn't
So
make
my
sense.
family comes from a long history of law enforcement.
Okay.
So initially, I thought I wanted to be a police officer.
Yep.
At the time, when I turned 18, the ACI had just built and opened 2 new prisons. So there's the medium building that's over by Mulligan's Island,
Yeah.
right? As everybody knows, Mulligan's, and then a portion of the new intake center opened up as well. So they were hiring mass loads of people, and I graduated high school in June. I turned 18 in September. Started the academy in December.
Okay.
So I was just 18 years old, like literally just turned 18 years old. So thought that would be a good stepping stone to get into police work. And after that period of time, I kind of just got turned off by the whole
What
environment.
specifically turned you off? If there was a thing.
more of what was happening with the police officers than anything. A couple of Providence police officers off the top of my head, Stephen Shaw had gotten killed. And then like kids, Columbine happened, going back to early 90s, early mid 90s. And it just, I don't know, just something I really didn't want to be involved in. And, it's become even a tougher job as we speak now, just with everything that's going on.
Sure.
So, that was so I decided to not get involved in pursuing police work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I actually volunteer and teach a class at the ACI.
We had spoken about that. Yeah, how's it going?
At the medium security,
Yeah.
it's not going.
Oh, because they're not letting anybody in.
I remember it was like March 5th or March 12th. All the volunteers go there every Tuesday night that it was.
Yeah.
So there's 30 of us in the intake area,
Yeah.
and then they'll let us in. And I remember the phone rang, and the desk officer said, "Really? No kidding." And then he
Yeah.
hung up the phone, and he goes, "You guys are all going home. Have a good night." And we're all like, "Going home? What? There must have been a fight. There must have been a lockdown."
It could. They might have had something.
But then it came out that the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So
That was it. Haven't been back since.
that was it.
Yeah. A lot of people are pretty sure it's happened that way. We just don't want to have any exposure and
Yeah.
bring anything in. Once it gets into a prison, it's very hard to spread something. It's very hard to not have it spread.
For sure.
Yeah.
Has that affected your business at all with the closings? It seems like things are busy.
So we are in the fastest pace that you could ever possibly imagine right now, overall industry-wide.
Wow.
Even when I first was introduced to the business in 2004, the fast pace was going on. We're setting record months, record years, record highs, record low interest rates. I mean, we have this unique perfect storm going on. So how has COVID affected that? As we sit here today, August 6th, this part of the office has really only been opened up for about the last 45 days.
Okay.
Maybe somewhere in that range, because we had set up a kind of like a makeshift settlement table.
Yep.
And we were actually handling all of the closings downstairs in the foyer.
Wow.
So we were, obviously we didn't want people coming up because we wanted to protect our staff. Obviously if anybody goes down in here, we then have to quarantine everybody, and it's been tough enough as it is.
Yep.
But we've managed. We've kept everybody safe. We've kept the borrowers, and me as a big coddler when it comes to the real estate closings and things of that nature, very hard and difficult to put people downstairs and masks and but a lot of the clients were very happy that there was that option of everybody was nervous. Everybody is still nervous and scared, as we can see this 4 months later as it's unwinding. But business has been very busy. I've had to add additional staff over this since February. We've added an attorney and 3 legal assistants, paralegals. So we're definitely trying to keep up with the pace of the business. But yeah, I mean, we've had to take every measure that we possibly could to make sure that we have sellers and buyers meeting at separate times, separate just handling everything as cautiously as possible.
So it's ironic that it's the busiest time ever, and you're also having to be the most cautious ever, when you should be ramming a gym and 8 people in that room, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, believe it or not, and as realtors and loan officers and other people will watch this.
Yeah.
We've realized that you really don't need as many people at the closing as you might think. So it's been pretty smooth, believe it or not, when it comes to the closing part. Whether the sellers are signing with their attorneys and they're couriering documents over, or if we are assisting on both sides of the transaction. Normally we'd have a closing set for 10 a.m. and we'd allot that hour. So now we can still allot that hour. However, we can have the seller come in at 10, the buyer come in at 10:30, and within that hour still have a transaction complete and without any of the
Hey, what about
just
the door and
the talking, just all of the things that are discussed at the table can now be discussed prior to coming to walkthroughs, things like that. Yeah, more efficient. So, and people have enjoyed it, so yeah, it was just buyers coming in, agents were not coming. We've loosened that up a little bit, just so the agents can get back into, a flow of how they normally or traditionally like to do their business. But yeah, we've I wouldn't say figured it out, but with the help of the whole industry, not just Balkun Title,
Sure.
you can go to most attorney firms or you can go to most title companies, and they have all taken beyond imaginable precautions and making sure that everybody stays safe. And I haven't heard of too many offices that have contracted any type of COVID.
Cool.
So knock on wood to the industry.
Yeah.
Loan officers. And again, this day and age, I feel like if it was 20 years ago, we would have struggled, and I would have thought that probably it would have slowed down tremendously.
Sure.
But with DocuSigns and dot loops and email, electronic signatures and delivery of documents, it's allowed loan officers, listing and agents to, circulate contracts and circulate documents and really keep the virus away from each other, and still perform and still get everybody to the closing table on time. I mean, with everybody being so busy, we certainly have experienced some lag time in all areas. Title searches might be taking a little longer.
Yep.
The cities have taken a lot longer with tax certificates and getting tax information because most of the municipalities were shut down.
Right.
And still are not open 100%.
Right.
So we've seen that, lenders, because of the enormous volume, lenders that are typically 100% closing time, they're experiencing a little bit of, backlog, so it's taking a little bit longer. I suggest that any agent or any buyer or anybody that goes into contract, I would say a minimum of 45 days. Because, again, appraisals are taking longer. Every step of the process, title searches, appraisals, getting all the information that we need is just taking a little bit more time.
When you would normally say 30 days could be possible.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're saying 50% more for cushion. I was thinking 60 days, and I don't deal with the volume, but I just feel like 60 days.
I would say 60. And here's the other huge issue that we're having is that because the market is the way that it is, people are now moving from their first homes or their starter homes to their forever homes. So you're getting this, I'm selling today and buying today. And that is a very difficult mend. So that is a huge struggle, especially when you see both contracts within 30 days. That means you have to have 2 lenders, 2 sellers, 2 buyers, 4 closing agencies possibly, all firing with, all-time record volume coming through the door, and trying to get all of those people or organizations on the same page, aligned to close on a particular date. So, when it's the simultaneous closings, they're a lot.
One thing you bring up a good point, and I want to make a point to you at home. When you're closing, right, you have the option to pick title attorney, right? Title insurance.
Title insurance.
And even have your own attorney involved. From my experience, you want to just say, the hell with that. You want to keep as minimal people as possible in the kitchen.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the state of Rhode Island, the borrower has the right to choose their own title. Each lender or bank or credit union may have their specific attorney list that only allows the bank's attorneys to do the closings, which is understandable. So the borrower can either do one of 2 things. They can stick with that attorney or a settlement company that the bank chooses and take them through the whole settlement, title insurance, and all of those items that they're going to pay for. Or in some instances, we have a relationship with Greg or Nexus and say, hey, okay, I understand that this company has to do the closing, but the borrower would still like to have title insurance and things of that nature, and they'd like to have you handle that process. So we do have the opportunity to split it at that point.
Cool. Just wanted to make that point. And I also want to get a little bit deeper to something most recently that you dealt with, which is the non-attorney closing state scenario. Now, I want you to tell us, what you can. I don't know if anything can't be said, but in sum, first, tell the folks at home what it means to be a non-attorney closing state. Kind of break it down for us.
Sure. I mean, so, throughout the United States and 50 states, we have some areas of the country where the state itself may believe that real estate is the practice of law. So they have passed laws and put into law that only attorneys can do closings, and that's specific to each state. Rhode Island happens to be an escrow or a non-attorney state or a title state where you can be a non-attorney in performing all of the actions of the closing and facilitation. So it just, it's 6 and 1, half dozen of the other. But yeah, there was an unauthorized practice of law committee that had put together a bunch of filings that were put against 3 different companies, including myself, that had wanted to have the law changed, saying that people cannot be acting as attorneys, and attorneys feel that attorneys should be the only ones that are closing the loans. So that was about a 3.5-year long, I wouldn't call it a battle, but it was, obviously it's my, and other, we're a title state, so, we have a lot of major title companies in the United States that are actually based right in Rhode Island, that are non-attorney owned. So they have gone through this process many times trying to get it through General Assembly, which it was never passed. So they had, circumvented the legislation part and tried to get it directly to the Supreme Court to weigh in and make a decision, because there was really a lot of uncertainty as to which part and what the law stated in Rhode Island. So after a day of hearings and all of the other information that was gathered in support of that, the Department of Justice weighed in, Rhode Island Housing weighed in, mortgage bankers weighed in. There were a lot of other agencies that weighed in on behalf of the title companies, which was great. So the Supreme Court said that the law that was put in place in 1917, so they weren't going to change a century-year-old law. That was the first thing. But there was also some gray areas as opposed to what constitutes representing a seller or preparing a deed or different legal documents in Rhode Island. So now they've made a very specific column that says these items or this type of representation certainly needs to be done by an attorney. So we've made all the steps and taken to make sure that we ensure that that is happening, and as are the other title companies in Rhode Island. So for now, everything is again, there are attorneys in Rhode Island and there are title companies in Rhode Island and all over the country as well. So the law did not change. They just made some adjustments to it, but it allows title companies and like myself, who's a non-attorney, to be able to facilitate real estate closings.
But an important point, if you're asking yourself at home, is Dan still employs. You employ multiple attorneys.
Correct.
So it's not like Dan's just here like, I think this is how we do it.
Correct.
Dan is advising and managing all of these closings that his attorneys are doing for him. And you
Correct.
don't even need to have attorneys, right?
I don't, but
you
obviously
do it?
I've had attorneys operating since almost, since day one, since 2016. So, I currently employ 3 attorneys, licensed in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut.
Beautiful.
I've always felt like there's that legal part that certainly needs to be concerning and, need to be reviewed. So, one of the items that they put into that column says that, the title examination needs to be reviewed, and also any issues that may need to be corrected need to be done by an attorney. So that's where, the process starts here, the title exam comes back, and then the attorneys go ahead, review, and make their comments and anything that needs to be cured.
Got it.
So, yeah, we're, definitely operating at a very high level with tremendous people in place. The
Awesome.
staff here is one of a kind, and my success is only based off of what they have done. I say that all the time. If it wasn't for them, great, Dan Balkun, people love Dan Balkun. Yes, I can run business, and yes, people will send business, but and as a realtor or a loan officer, or anybody else, that if you have a bad experience or if the communication isn't there, that's the one thing that I really instill and make sure that needs to happen, is that they need to have communication. I've been at plenty of firms. I've worked for 3 other law firms, some good, some bad, some not so great. And when it came to that specific, and I took a lot from my mentors. I've had some great mentors in this build.
Who was your best mentor?
Oh God, I would say that in all different facets,
Yep.
Of my career. I started with Lepizera and La Persina. So Paul Laprasina, Chris DiPaolo, they really took me under their wing and showed me how to become, you know, a businessman and a salesman and,
Yep.
you know, actually learn this business. So that was great, and I worked for them for about 7 years, close to 7 years. So a lot of my thanks
Yeah.
goes to that, to those guys, you know. My other big mentor is Bob D'Amico, Robert
Okay.
D'Amico at D'Amico and Birchfield.
Yep.
I worked with him and Jimmy Birchfield, so they both became, you know, great mentors. They actually gave me the first opportunity to actually be a man. Is when I say man, it's like to
Okay.
run a business, learn a profit and loss, you know, really dig into the meats and bones. You know, the great progress that I made at Leprozera and Laprasina was they taught me how to know title, how to do sales, how to,
Yep.
you know, really make sure that it worked. This was the back end of the business, and you know, so great, you know, great mentors, like people that have really given me a chance, you know, and really believed in me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all you need. Really in life is people that really believe in you,
Yep.
people that will take the time to train you and show you and have a cared interest, you know, in you. Not just a vested interest, but a cared interest in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of these four guys, what would you say is the commonality, or what trait did they all share, even though they're probably all different in their
Yeah.
own rights? What would you say is a similarity that they all had that you took from them?
Be a good person. Pick up your phone.
Communication again.
Communication, yes. Good, bad, or indifferent, pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And be a good person. You know, always just be a good person. And a deal, one of my, if I could say that Bob D'Amico always told me, a deal is a deal. Whether it benefits you or doesn't benefit you, you signed into the deal and you have to honor it. And that's one of the things that I've always said. So good, bad, or indifferent, I have to be honorable in what I agreed to. So sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
True.
But you know, a man of his word is very important, and I've learned that from a lot of them.
And in this business, is there any way, like, when you sign and close, right? Is there any way that you can, like, go to the house and then figure something out and then back out? Like, does that happen, or is that not? Like, when you close and buy that house, can you undo the closing?
Only in a refinance. You know, obviously,
That's it.
yeah.
Okay.
In a purchase, obviously they've had home inspections done, they've had an appraisal done. You know, they've gone through the mortgage process. They've done walkthroughs through the house. They've done a final walkthrough. So you know, typically, that if the walkthrough works and they get to the closing table, typically they're going to sign everything because they've already felt like they've
Yeah.
worked everything. The refinances are the only ones that I know of that you can rescind or cancel the deal during a period of rescission. So
Got it.
typically you sign, you have 3 days to rescind. You can then send those forms into the lender
Got
to
it.
cancel the loan.
Well, it makes sense. You're already there. It's
I don't see it happen much. When I first, in 2004, 2005, 2006, I mean, people were equity stripping. You know, they'd get an
Yep.
interest rate at get $50,000 out in another 6 months, take another $50,000 out, and they were just chasing, and rate didn't matter. It was just all about money
cash.
and equity stripping. So a lot of times back then, you would see people rescind refinances because they might have closed today with a 5.5%, 6% interest rate, and all of a sudden they got resolicited within that 3-day cancellation, and now they're off at 4%, and they can get $75,000. You know, so we saw a lot of that vulnerability. I can say that, you know, over the last couple of years of doing a lot of more refinances, I haven't had anybody rescind because of, you know, the rates are so low,
Yeah.
the payments going down. Most people are saving, you know, they're getting rid of PMI, FHA PMI, which stays on the loan for life. They're getting rid of equity, some credit card debt. But most of the people that I see today are coming in lowering interest rate, lowering payment.
Yep.
And that's perfect for a new family that just bought a home.
Yep.
You know.
It would be a pain in the ass, right, to do a rescission.
Yeah, I'm sure on the lender side, because we haven't recorded any of the documents yet, but I'm assuming on the lender side, you know, yeah, that would be, you know, but I haven't seen it much. It's not one of those things that's a common occurrence like it used to be.
Interesting.
You know, and then everybody's losing because we're spending the money on the title, the closing, all
Right.
of the, you know, but yeah, it's been fairly smooth.
So Dan, one question that my wife
Oh God.
actually wanted me to ask you.
Yeah.
She said, what is the most interesting or memorable story that you've ever had, even before Balkun title? Like,
Yeah.
what is one maybe closing or scenario that you were like blown away? What the hell just happened?
Oh my God.
And it could be a couple. I mean,
There are so many. It's funny because like if you were to ask that question to anybody, I don't know if there's one particular deal that any of us could possibly remember that was like the whole, because there's been a ton of sideways deals.
yeah.
I know there's been like closings on the back of pickup trucks because like, you know, we had a guy driving like, you know, cross country or it just, you know, we've had some odd requests. But I think the business in general is odd. It's been really odd lately because of COVID. You know, just the temperaments and the anxiety has been at an all-time high. So it's it's been the focus has really just been try to eliminate any type of what ifs. You know, so you know, try to get the titles back quicker, try to get more staff on them, try to get more reception, try to get, you know, trying to give people the best service, try to get them, you know, sometimes they just need to be handheld, right? You know, first time home buyers, they don't understand that appraisals are taking too long. They don't understand that underwriting is taking long. They don't understand that, you know, title searches are taking longer. So, you know, and I always say that setting the expectations is the biggest problem in any real estate transaction. Agents, loan officers, attorneys, settlement companies, and it starts with it starts with the realtor and the loan officer. You know, they have to get pre-qualified first. You know, I feel like that's a great conversation to have and talk about what the environment of the market is right now. Forget that I just gave you a pre-qualification for $300,000. Here's the expectations.
Right.
And then the realtor should also be, and that's why teamwork or working with, you know, solid individuals really helps your business grow, because the agents and the loan officers that I see that are doing this, we're not seeing a lot of like frantic behavior. So, you know, it's up to the loan officer to let them know that, you know, again, if they're gonna, you know, I'm seeing offers $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price in this market and still getting declined. So it's just very volatile right now.
Okay.
And, you know, agents are struggling with buyers because they're not communicating to them, like if you're gonna go in at, you know, at listing price, you're probably not going to get it in this market because of everybody is going in $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 we're asking. You know, so I think setting the expectations right now in this market is key. And the loan officer, it starts with them because they're typically the first. I mean, an agent shouldn't be showing somebody houses without a pre-qualification, but if the agent happens to be the first one, the first thing you need to do, and I would assume that why it doesn't happen all the time is because we will yes a client to death to keep them, right? So, you know, hey, we're struggling or we haven't had as many deals come through the pipeline. So I get the lead and Greg, you know, comes in and he's all like, I want a house, I want it by the end of the month, I want to get a deal, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, Greg, yep, we're gonna get you on a search and we're gonna get going. And again, you haven't set the expectations about like, okay, deals are not had in this type of market. You know, they're had when we have short sales and foreclosures and when there's a lot of angst out there. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Right now, everything is still progressively going up. And, you know, we need to set those expectations with the clients that like, hey, you know, you're going to bid on 4 or 5, 6 houses maybe before you even get one. Don't get discouraged.
Right.
You know, like, you know, you might find houses that I know you want turnkey or you want like all the central air and you want everything brand new, but realistically, here's what we may be looking at. And it's not to not show the client that you're not going to work for them. If you don't set the expectations with anybody or anything in life, you know, you're going to find yourself backtracking and working doubly as hard, trying to fix the problem. When if you had that, you know, again, we have those conversations with clients and they forget all about that and they still come at you at the end. But I would think if you're putting yourself in the best selling cycle, the best case scenario, and we're getting your referrals going correctly, the first conversation you have with somebody is your expectations and their expectations. So you're listening, of course, because that's what we should do, but their expectations really aren't realistic because this isn't what they do on a daily basis. You know, so when they're looking on Zillow or they're looking at realtor.com or they're looking at all these other agencies to find homes, you know, their excitement is only based off of, I want that house.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I feel like setting the expectations is probably the biggest factor. You know, I know that kind of went off the whole, what your wife wanted to know, like what was my craziest closing. But, you know, we've had a lot of crazy closings. You know, it's just...
But it's, your point is that maybe these crazy closings happen because there's no pre-education up front.
Yeah, and right now people, unfortunately, are just not acting correctly. I don't know how to say it like any other way, but like
It's a really
sellers
polite way.
So, yeah, well, you know,
You're not acting correctly.
Just because there are tensions everywhere. Sellers, buyers, you know, the simultaneous closings going on, you know, a short amount of time, you know, to perform on a closing, and, you know, extensions being needed. It's creating a lot of animosity, and, you know, just, you know, I had... For instance, I'll tell you a story about,
Here we go.
You know, I had a closing just not too recently, and, you know, the clients were driving from cross country from Colorado.
Okay.
Never saw the house. They bought it, obviously, through virtual, and went through the whole process. The gentleman's truck gets a flat tire as soon as he leaves Colorado, the U-Haul in Nebraska. Within a couple hours later, still in Nebraska, because, you know, it takes forever to get through states in the Midwest, motor blows. So then, you know, the U-Haul sends a truck out with guys. They have to unpack his whole truck, pack the whole truck up. They put him behind about a day, so he doesn't get in till later in the day to close. Now, his wife and 2-year-old baby are going to be flying in the very following day. And again, you know, nothing that the buyer did wrong, you know, just happens to be what happened.
Yeah.
And at that point, now we have a seller that doesn't want to, you know, let them in, doesn't want to let them store their, doesn't want to do anything for them until they get their money on Monday.
Right.
You know, so again, person has to go to a hotel.
Right.
They've got to, you know, it just, again, I use that as an example of, like, you know, I have a 3-year-old daughter. You know, and one of the shows that we watch is Sesame Street. And one of the things that they always talk about, and they teach kids at the youngest levels, is how to be kind. So, anybody out there listening, realtor, loan officer, settlement agent, attorney, be kind. You know, you catch more bees with honey than you do vinegar. And if we can all work in that manner of being that type of person, I guarantee you our lives will not only be better, our businesses will be better, and overall, great things will happen.
That's solid advice. 100% solid. I find that when people stick their claws in, it just, everybody gets unmotivated.
It deteriorates all the hard work that's been done, and they're only going to remember that particular point.
And was it worth it?
No.
Usually
it never is, because
never is.
Ultimately the seller sells the house, the buyer buys the property, and, you know, in good faith. Now, I can see if there's deals, because I feel like sometimes there's deals that are being done that aren't in good faith. You know, and they also create drama.
What do you mean?
Oh, you just, you know, you don't know. Items were supposed to be repaired, they go to a walkthrough, the items weren't repaired. You go through on a walkthrough, the house is full of food and furniture, and they didn't care to take it out. Then we're drawing up and holding back, and it creates just, you know, again, so, you know, if people are doing the right things on there, and like, I always say that the craziest things, and I know anybody who, probably closing agents or attorneys will hear this and they'll laugh, but why is every seller going on vacation the day of the closing?
I was just going to ask the same thing. They're
Like,
always going to Florida.
Everybody's always got the family trip. They're going to Euro Disney, and there's no way we can. I mean, come on, people. Like, what are we doing?
It's a lie.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's like, now if you tell me you're waiting in a U-Haul to close on your other house because you have nowhere to go, that I feel for. But when you tell me that you're away on a vacation and that you're not willing to sign documents or do anything for anybody, well, you signed a contract saying you were going to close on a certain day.
Right.
On that day, you happen to be nowhere. You happen to be in Disney, Euro Disney. You happen to be
Disney. That's a
or
good
are
one.
you? You know, that's the thing. Or are you?
You're actually.
Are you being
more
difficult? Yeah, yeah. You're actually being difficult. So again, you know, be kind,
Mm-hmm.
understand that the other person may not be the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and also that there are things that happen in life. That particular gentleman driving cross country for his family,
Right.
you know, gets here after driving for 4 days straight, blow to balloon, you know, everything that
Yeah.
happened, and, you know, I gave him money for a hotel for the
Right.
weekend. You know, nobody else, you know, cared. I wouldn't say cared, but
Yeah,
but
just worried.
I'm sitting across the table from somebody, and you know, you want to see him. His family's they don't have any money. They're moving. Yeah, I just, you know,
Yeah.
again, there's a lot of circumstances or moving parts to this. So you try to do the right thing and be kind and help people.
Hmm.
That's why, like, I don't mind staying till 8 o'clock at night to do a closing. I don't mind, you know, again, I'll never say no. That's our motto here. You can close,
Really?
we have documents, we are signing.
You never say no.
You can walk through and ask anybody. If we get closing and we get docs, what does Dan say? We're closing, whatever time. And we go in rotation. You know,
Yeah.
everybody, you know, if it's not me, it's Olivia, it's Chad, it's, you know, it's Andrew, you know, it's whatever we have to do. You know, and everybody has families here, but more importantly, I know when we're getting a clear to close at 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock at night, everybody's already stressed out. The
Yes.
later the clear to close goes in the day, the more stressed are people.
Right.
And if then you say no and you push it off, you know, it just creates, right, where do we go? Right? Or, you know, so just try to always facilitate and help people, you know, do the right thing.
Again,
That's the best we can do.
that's legit.
Try to.
So switching gears a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite restaurant in Rhode Island?
God, favorite restaurant in Rhode Island. I mean, you can always go with the great Twin Oaks.
Yep, I knew you were gonna say that.
Just because of, you know, the thing, like their shellfish there is fantastic, right? So lobster, crab, shrimp, the best in the country. Cold plate, Twin Oaks, 100%.
The best
that
in the
you'll-
country?
Absolutely.
You say that with ultimate confidence.
Ultimate confidence. Absolutely. Go there and get their crab legs, lobster, and
What's this called?
shrimp
The cold
cocktail.
plate?
Yeah, you can get a cold shellfish.
So it's just a variety of different things?
Yep. It's already cracked, already good. I mean, you can get it however you want it. The best. Now, of course, you know, I have my favorites, local stuff, like Cafe Eatery or
Okay.
Antonio's or, you know, L'Osteria.
How about a
Capital
good
Grill.
grinder?
Oh, Roma on the hill.
Okay.
Roma, Federal Hill, best Italian grinder in the state.
Chef Dominic.
We love you know, we love Dominic, right? I'm sure you know him pretty well because
Dominic
DJ Delicious is good
Iorfino,
for him.
yep, he's
Absolutely.
we've DJ'd upstairs.
Upstairs, yeah, they have a great little hall upstairs. Great little found treasure. Their prepared food's great too.
And what I like about Chef Dominic, you got the restaurant, if you will, or the walk-in on the
Yeah,
corner.
yeah.
And his workers have been with him for decades.
Oh yeah,
Which is rare in any business, let alone food service.
yeah.
Then he's got the restaurant bar,
Mm-hmm.
and then upstairs the hall,
Yeah.
and then on the left, my favorite thing, the apartments.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
yeah,
like
it's a great building.
that's the American dream right
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
That's everything.
yeah. And still, if you walked in there, probably half the employees are still speaking Italian or broken English. You know. So yeah, great place.
Legit.
Great Italian grinder. Great Italian grinder.
Interesting. How about
Yeah.
that place? Mike Mancini, our friend, he would take me. It was on, I think it was on Cranston Street, Dee's Deli.
Dee's Deli. My grandfather's, God rest his soul, favorite place. Up until he died at 88. Up until 87 and a half.
Wow.
I would still stop there to get him an Italian grinder to bring it to him when I would go visit.
Legit.
Yeah.
And is it true that they keep like a certain amount of rolls for the day, and then
That's
once
it.
they sell them
Yeah.
out, it's over?
Yeah, I've never, that's not one of my places I would stop at
Yeah.
all the time. But yeah, I heard that too. They only buy so much bread. They only do so many, you know. We are so blessed in this state when it comes to food. You know, I mean, you can go to pretty much any part of the state and get phenomenal food.
Any part of the world in one
One
state.
state, I know. Yeah, that's
It's
why people
legit.
don't leave. They love this. They love the food in Rhode Island.
I came home last night. I was on the bike path. I love to bike, and my wife ordered Indian food. So I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, "What is this? Like, it looks like dog food."
Yeah.
And then you eat it, and it's like
Yeah,
Only in Rhode Island.
yeah.
You get Indian food delivered, you get Mexican food,
Oh, yeah.
you get Italian food. It's like so blessed.
Great, great restaurant area and food. And
How
food in
about a
general.
pie?
Oh God, like pizza?
Yeah.
I have two at this point. My all-time favorite, Big Cheese in Cranston
Yep.
on Reservoir Ave. I just love their pizza there. I love now Catanzaro's.
Ah.
So those are my two. I mean, of course, I'm being a little biased because I'm more Cranston.
Yeah.
Used to be Caserta's on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Even back when I grew up in Providence, we used to get Twins Pizza. If anybody knows where Twins Pizza is on Minnow Spring Avenue, that used to be a go-to. Catanzaro's really takes the cake right now.
I never tried them. Is that the one across from the funeral home?
Yep, right across from Nautilus in Cranston on Park
I never
Avenue.
tried it.
Yeah, they have great calzones. Like they do everything. They use, just on their small pizza, they use a pound of dough. On their mediums is like 2 pounds of dough.
Wow.
But they do, like if you just did a cheese and pepperoni, for instance, right?
Yep.
They would do pepperoni, then the cheese, then more pepperoni. So always do like 2 layers, right on the money. Real real pepperoni, the thinner, like the good pepperoni, the cheese
Yep.
you can smell it's fresh when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get a large unless you're looking to feed 20 people.
Got it.
Because if anybody remembers the old Twins or like they own Caserta's, their large is literally,
Large.
it's large. We ordered a large the first time ever and the guy showed up, I'm like, that's not for us.
This-
Like, no, this is our large. And it was,
Looking like that table.
yeah, exactly, yeah. I was going to use that as a,
Yeah, we'll actually
Yeah.
show you the table.
but yeah,
How about breakfast?
11:49 was my favorite just because of their brunch.
They had breakfast or
Brunch.
Brunch,
Yeah,
okay.
brunch breakfast. They obviously just closed during COVID.
sad.
God, Harriet's Kitchen,
Yep.
fantastic. Sweaty Betty's back in the day over on Middle Spring and breakfast. God, I haven't done too much breakfast. They've gone a lot of chains now, and of course, if I'm really going anywhere, Cozy Grill,
Cozy Grill.
absolutely.
Tommy P.
Tommy P, Jason P, the whole Fildarian family,
Awesome.
iconic. They've probably been in business since the dads, and I don't know, at least 50 years maybe
Yeah.
at this point.
And I saw there's one in Coventry too.
That's his brother Jason's.
I didn't know there was one
Yeah.
there. I was driving and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Cozy Grill.
Yeah, I don't know if the location's still open, but I know
Okay.
they definitely had another location down there. But the dad originally opened up the first Cozy Grill right on Broad Street in South Providence,
Wow.
and that's Tommy grew up working in that one.
What have you noticed about Rhode Island? Like, you've grown up here. How old are you now?
48. 48.
48.
Yeah.
What have you noticed in those 48 years change-wise? Like, you grew up in Silver Lake.
I did.
You've...
Yeah, and then moved to Warwick.
Warwick.
Grew up in Warwick. Went to high school in Warwick.
Like, what are some of the big changes or differences that you've seen? Not just, demographic-wise or
Yeah.
income-wise. Like, just overall. Like, what's your pulse?
It's a weird scenario for me because growing up here, growing up inner cities, definitely I would say state or city aided, welfare, so definitely saw different types of situations when growing up. So like
Yeah.
most of the schools I went to were about 80% black.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Warwick, one black family in the whole school,
Wow.
right? So, big major change. But what I'm seeing now is like, I see the economy still, it's very good in Rhode Island, obviously with our restaurant stuff right now, but construction's there. I think there's a lot of accessibility for people that have jobs in Rhode Island.
Yep.
So, I saw a lot of people moving out of the state years ago, seeing a lot of people move into the state now. We have great education here, besides dining, food, but our education, anywhere from Ivy League to the community colleges. So I feel, in technical schools, so I feel as though the kids can seriously get a great education.
Yep.
Rhode Island in general is obviously coastline and shore, so we have the best of all the seasons.
Yep.
It's a busy state for a small state.
It is.
Yeah, but it's good to see that people that I know that have grown up doing well, opening businesses, having families.
Yep.
So I guess the same old American dream.
So you worked in other title and closing and attorneys' offices, and then you were able to branch out with what you learned and open your own business.
Yes.
Now, do you credit that to Rhode Island in general? Like, is that possible for all businesses? It seems like it wouldn't be. It seems like it'd be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I never imagined opening my own company, at one point, and I got to the point where I just said, hey, I got to try. Hey, I could always go back to what I was doing, but I wanted to try to see, and that was the big jump and step for me. And obviously here we are, we opened up in June of 2016, so we're into our 5th year. It's gone very fast. But, I've taken a lot from the companies that I've worked for, what I loved and what I didn't like. And you try to replicate something that is you, but you have to take it from experience, right? So I know that certain companies, I love the way that they, did their own business. They were in charge of their own files. They weren't waiting for anybody, and I like that idea. I like being in charge, because if somebody needs a title back in a day, I can get it, But if I have a system I have to go through and it takes me a week to get, or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get the titles back, I'm not going to be known for the guy that can take a deal and get it done quick for somebody.
Right.
Not that we want to have rushes all over the place, but sometimes we get deals that weren't able to, didn't get ordered, or the client dropped the attorney or the title company they're with because they couldn't do something, or they weren't happy with the service, or and I've hopefully never lost anybody like that, but I'm sure it's happened, because nothing is you can't be perfect. All we can try to do is, 1, be a good person. 2, pick up the phone. You have to pick up the phone. Paul Appressina, I'll give that to you. Pick up the phone.
Good, bad, or indifferent, like
good, bad, or indifferent.
Because sometimes I see my phone and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's calling me.
Yeah. Sometimes
and then you just you say, all right.
Yeah, you have to suck it up, because if you don't do it now, you have to do it again somewhere down the line. And the
He's
longer it
getting
goes,
pissed.
yes. And it may be something as simple as, hey Greg, just wanted to let you know, I just saw a house that I may want to buy.
Right. So Dan, you started the business 4 years ago now, 5 years ago?
4 years. We opened up June 2016.
So if you could fast forward back to then, what would you do different?
I'll rewind. God, what would I do different?
Yeah, rewind.
Maybe take the anxiety out of it, if I could. If that's almost impossible, but I don't know. I feel like I planned out. You have to go through so many bells, jumps, hoops, whistles to even know if. So before I even was given a producer's license or a license to do business in the state of Rhode Island, you have to go through a whole process. So you have to have your E&O in place. You have to have escrow accounts in place. You have to have basically everything set up as if you were already in business. And then take all of that. So you've got to spend money. You have to do a lot of different things to get to that point. So I don't know if I would do anything different. I feel like I again had good people behind me, learned a lot about the business, and obviously moving forward, I don't know. I don't know if I could have done anything different. I just don't. It's continued to work well. I mean, I was able to really have great employees, that were seasoned.
Yep.
None of them had ever come with a startup before, so that was all new to everybody.
Got it.
But they had faith in me, and I'm glad they did, but I had more faith in them than I had in myself. But I don't know if I could go back and change anything, because it kind of worked out, obviously, to my great benefit that I've been able to be open and be licensed and continue to do good work on a daily basis.
For sure.
So I don't know if I could rewind it. You had to get all of the, blocks. You had to build the foundation first before you could even get to that point. So I guess, I don't know. I don't know if I could have changed anything, because it's very calculated on what you have to do in order to do this. And do this business, but also have licensing. So
there's no ambiguity of I can do it this way.
Yeah,
no,
no. Very structured. You have to have your T's crossed, I's dotted. You have to have everything in place, and and even the tougher part was being approved by the title insurance companies because of,
Got it.
you know, during all the defalcation and all of the foreclosures and just what had happened between the mid 2000s, they weren't really all that excited about reinvesting in startups, non-attorney, you know, and, you know, pile on all the other stuff. So the great thing is that, you know, for the previous, God, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, I was lucky enough, well, no, about 5 years, I was lucky enough to be able to, as I was at these firms, run my own profit and loss, learn about the business. So, like, I had a great pro forma to offer, you know, of not guaranteed business, but hey, this is what I've done over the past X amount of years. And we had to present that because, you know, if I was just like, hey, I want to open up a title company, you know, they weren't going to do it. Yeah, they weren't going to do it. So I, again, had been fortunate enough to have been around great mentors, as we spoke about earlier. And if anybody is, you know, excited about this business, find somebody that you can mentor with. You know, I always say that, like, you know, I have one of my friends that I used to work corrections with, his son is now a loan officer.
Wow,
And,
okay.
you know, I've known him since he was born, you know, and he reached out to me and was looking for a mentor, and I found it very, very flattering,
Yeah.
you know. So, you know, I try to help anybody wants the help or information, or, you know, there's enough business, there's always enough, you know, there's just enough where, you know, giving a secret, not a secret, but giving information or helping somebody, you know, to grow. And that's, you know, if you can't help others, you're not going to be able to be successful yourself. And that's number one.
Do you feel that if anybody wants to open, not even this kind of business, but any small business, that they should either mentor or work for that business first, or do you think somebody can come in blind?
100,000%.
Yeah, there's
I don't
no
think
leeway?
I don't think anybody should open up a business that they don't have any experience at, first and foremost. Secondly, I'll give you 2 stories, all right? Because I have a good friend of mine who owns a huge jewelry company, and family owned.
In Rhode Island?
Yep, millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're a great family, big company, and one of the sons happens to be one of my best friends.
Okay.
And you know, as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid working summers for his dad at the company, you know, and as he grew older, you know, he tried to figure out why his dad was doing what he was doing to him. So, for instance, one summer he had him up on the roof, blacktopping the roof with the contractors that the father was paying. You know, other jobs he was having him do was clean the toilets. Other jobs he was having him do, cut the lawn out front. Not big lawn, you know, obviously, but because what he wanted to mentor him in and understand is that, yes, you have the silver spoon, obviously, and I want my sons to be part of my business. But if you don't know as an owner every part of how long it takes to do each job around here, you will be taken advantage of.
For sure.
So if it takes the landscape, if it says the guy, when you have to do the roof every 5 years or whatever, how long it needs to be, and the guy comes and says, well, this is going to take 3 days and it's going to cost X amount of dollars, you know, you've done it yourself. It's going to take a day and a half with X amount of people. Or when you hire a porter or a company to come in and clean, how long it takes them to vacuum the floors, and how long it takes them to do the bathrooms. How long it takes the machine shop guy to make a chain. So he worked in every part of the factory as well. And here they are, years later, you know, very successful. Because his father instilled in him that, I'm not doing this to punish you.
Right.
I'm doing this to mentor and grow. So that would be one thing. And like, if you were going to open up a franchise of a Dunkin' Donuts, well, wouldn't you want to know how to fry a donut? Wouldn't you know how to work a busy drive-through at 7 a.m. in the morning? Wouldn't you want to know how to make certain... So again, no matter what you're getting into, you need a mentor. For new realtors, you need training, you need coaching, you need... And again, so it's very important. To jump into a business that you have no knowledge of, that would just be like, you know, business suicide in a sense. Or thinking you can do it. You know, a lot of businesses fail because, you know, I was a barber, and, you know, I see that the guy has 10 chairs and he's getting $150 a week and he's making all this money, and I can do it. And then, you see people like, I'm just using that as an example, but anybody that's gonna open up, very few people, I'd probably say 1, maybe 5% of the people that open up a business that have had no knowledge of the business can be successful at it. Because it may be, maybe not it might be something that is easy, learnable, that you can do on the fly, or it has a certain application and then you can take off with it. But I wouldn't agree with anybody that says, oh, I can do this, I'm just going to open up my, I've seen people with real estate license, I'm going to be a broker. Okay, do you have no idea how to be a broker? By the way, you really don't have much mentoring, because your numbers don't translate into you being a broker.
Right.
And, people like Nathan Clark and Kyle Saboth and these big,
tomorrow.
And Anytime Real Estate, that guys that have platforms, that have systems in place for people to be very successful, that's where you should go mentor. That's where you should go learn. Being an independent agent and just sticking your license somewhere is going to be very difficult, because you see everybody selling houses, but you really don't know how to do it. You have the book at school, but there's OJT, right? On the job training. Yep. You learn more on the job training than you'll ever learn from a textbook.
For sure.
And you know that, I know that. So mentors doesn't have to be just, a company, one person that, there are agencies out there that, you come in and you mentor under somebody for a couple of transactions. Maybe those people are super busy as well. So how much time do you get? Or do you get a lot of one-on-one? So, I feel like there'll be a shift in power, personally, just because these other agencies that we mentioned, they're offering training, they're offering leads, they're offering vehicles for people to be successful. Right. And at the end of the day, real estate is a sales job. So people get caught up in percentages and their own identity. Right. Well, I'm my own agent, I'm independent, and I shouldn't have to make 50%, or I shouldn't have to make 75%. I should keep it all. Great. But 100% of nothing is nothing. Right. And you will be out of the business quicker, because you won't have business to facilitate, because you're trying to do it on your own. No great mentors, no real system in place, and trying to figure it out on the fly. So I do feel like as these teams are growing and they're taking a little more of a share, but I also believe that they give an opportunity to an agent that may have struggled at somewhere else, or maybe just getting into the business and need somebody to work with.
Let's face it, to be a realtor, it's a couple months of schooling, relatively easy. I remember I actually did it, a hyper course. I did 4 10-hour days, and we crammed in a lot of stuff. And then I get my license. It's on the wall. I'm a real estate salesperson. Right. And I remember
what do I do next?
What do I do now? And I was doing the rentals, which is a whole nother thing.
That's another animal.
They don't teach you anything about that. So I had to learn on the fly, and thankfully, knock on wood, we are and have been very successful. But my point is that there's a lot of realtors that are handling transactions of a lifetime, and there's a lot of this. So they, of all people, I think, should be the most mentored, and the most educated.
It's in other states they have transformed some of that. Where, would you now looking at it, would you feel comfortable as an agent first time putting somebody into a purchase and sales contract? Not just pre-populating the names, but actually knowing what your client is signing.
Right.
So an agent that just got their license, do they know how to put a purchase and sales? Oh, it's a standard form. Well, a standard form also can be adjusted to, the transaction. The standard language is the standard language, but then there's additional provision. There's so many other things that happen off of that. So, they might try to change those type of applications where realtors shouldn't be putting together purchase and sales. You see it in other states, they consider it the practice of law because it's a binding contract. So again, you could have as a brokerage, you have a newbie come in and you could have an issue where the contract might have been not in good position for your client, or something happened during the transaction. So I'm sure as you start looking for agents or bringing people on, you probably have some sort of system in it. You're not just going to go, hey, go find 100 rentals for me.
Right.
Here's how we're going to find 100 rentals. But more importantly, once we do find them, here's how we're going to perform. And you have to bring them through the process. So right now, as busy as we are, I have 2 brand new girls that have started, have some experience, but I'm in a great position to have them mentored here. They're going to train for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks before they actually take on a pipeline or a file or anything else here, because I need them self-sufficient and not always
Correct.
looking for the paralegal who's busy, so I'm trying to, educate and get them technology and learn what we do here, as opposed to bad habits, right? So if you bring somebody in, they're going to form their own bad habits if you don't show them how to do it.
Right.
So I feel confident that we're now in a position where we're able to train, they're getting good mentorship here. It's only going to give them the confidence to be performing better. So when they pick up the phone when Greg Rice is calling on 123 Main Street, how you doing, Greg? Oh yeah, exactly. So, and taking the next level in technology, so just about ready to, and you have seen some of it, because we've done a couple of transactions where we have a system that's going to be very interactive with not only the clients, the realtors.
What's it called again?
Qualia. Yeah, so it's the title software that we use, but it's taken me over 6 months to build out the back end of that, so we're getting ready to launch it, but I still have to do a whole training on the staff.
So Dan, you said technology, you're talking about Qualia, which is very cool. That's handling all the correspondence with the transaction. I, as an agent, can upload my commission statement.
Fill in your commission.
I can ask a question.
Yes.
It's like a nice one HubSpot portal. That's just handling the closing.
Correct.
Do you think that in the future the entire home buying process could be done online? From showings to lending to appraisals. Like, do you think somebody on their phone could do the whole home purchase and never have to do in person or go somewhere?
The in-person would depend. So in other parts of the country, they're doing a lot of that with RON signatures. Like, so they're, obviously because of COVID, the biggest issue is, though, the signing of the documents, right? The actual physical documents at the closing. So the note, the mortgage, like those documents need wet signatures, because you need to have validity. You need to have proof that that person physically signed. The dot loop stuff is great for contracts or authorizations or other things. That was the problem with a lot of the foreclosures that happened in the mid-2000s and a lot of civil action lawsuits, because they had gone to a lot of the delivery document systems with electronic signatures. So what they did was, these attorneys that love class action lawsuits came up with this: we're going to challenge the validity of the signatures because they weren't in hand. They were actually physically done by electronic. Now, somebody signed electronically in 2008, made mortgage payments for 4 years. Now they're part of a class action lawsuit, says, oh, they're challenging the validity of the signature. So you can't pay your mortgage for 4 years and then say it wasn't you, right? I mean, so they really try to stay away from that. Like a lot of the banks, like the foreclosure banks, will allow electronic signatures. Short sale lenders will not allow electronic signatures on purchase and sales. So it just depends on the scenario, but I don't see a system where they'll go 100%. Not after what happened, because, at least some of the documents, will need to be, because even though that they're saying they're allowing it, it's the lenders and also the secondary market lenders that are lending the money to the lenders, the warehouse lines, they don't want it. And that's why we haven't been able to do any of those in Rhode Island. Where they wanted to, as COVID was coming out, they passed the state law that says, hey, we can use electronic signatures with a notary. I then went to 6 of my lenders and said, hey guys, if we incorporate this, are you gonna allow us to sign all of the documents? Every one of them, no. So, goes to show you, they don't want it either,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day.
Don't you think it's coming though?
Like
the whole, if
I
you
think it would
20
be
years
I think
ago-
it would be a big mistake.
You think so?
I do. I just think that it would create too much uncertainty, as if it would create drama of who signed, who didn't sign. Because what, you can't see somebody, maybe if you do it on a Skype
Right.
and they're clicking,
Right.
but again, like, so you'll have to measure everything in a whole.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe that people can sign contracts, they can sign listing agreements, they can sign lender documents for like as
Yep.
they're going. But you know, deeds still need, you know, physical signatures. There are
Those go to the town halls.
correct. Mortgages need signatures. You know, I would just feel a lot better knowing that those documents were delivered and signed by a person. You know, I'm sure everybody else feels that way. In other parts of the country, they're not. You know, so again, it just comes down to conservative, not conservative.
Yeah.
You know, we typically are old school kind of here.
Yep.
You know, a lot of our closings are in person, whereas in other parts of the country, title is title, closing is closing, escrow is escrow, and they're done completely separate.
Uh-huh.
You know, California, separate closings. The sellers and buyers never even meet. And they do a lot of the documents by, you know, sign and send. You know, so different parts of the country. It's just going to matter. The problem is, if they did allow it, it's just going to take time until things go wrong, which is what happened in the mid-2000s. All those class action lawsuits tied up all the houses from being foreclosed on, you know, which just caused this whole deterioration of property. You know, again, it only hurts the home, right? At the end of the day, if we can't pay a mortgage or have people occupying it,
Right.
it actually physically hurts the house.
Right.
Which then causes, you know, issues with value.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I would think that I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd rather see everybody sign. I would. You know, just because it validates what we're doing.
True.
You know.
It would totally change, like,
I mean, it would be great for everybody not to ever have to
right, it'd be more
pick up a
efficient.
pen. It would certainly be more efficient. And again, I think now with COVID, you're going to see listing agreements and virtual tours
Yeah.
and all of your stuff. Wouldn't need to see why anybody would have to sign anything.
Right.
You know, maybe the contract just because it is a contract, but you know, again, if the lenders are going to allow electronic signatures and the title companies are going to allow electronic signatures, no problem on my end. But I think as time goes on, you know, you'll see. I think there would be issues. You know, the lenders are allowing electronic signatures through the pre-disclosures,
Yep.
but they're not allowing them all the way to the end. You know, so yeah, they want certain documents signed. You know, name affidavits and
Yeah.
mortgages and notes. So I don't see where there's again, I could be wrong, but if
Seems
it
like
didn't
you
happen now, if the lenders during
Right.
this pandemic, with the amount of volume going through these banks, for them to say no,
Must be true.
yeah, they don't want to run into what they ran into last time. Thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of properties just sitting there, no resolution. Because there's a class action lawsuit against the lenders saying validity, you know, we're challenging the validity of signatures, and you know, so it really was a big game, you know, towards those late 2000s. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like technology assisted, but not
Technology's
controlled.
great. It's definitely systematic. It's great. You know, you can have contact with clients.
Yeah.
You can have marketing materials. You can have a vehicle for agents to be able to send commissions and upload documents and actually physically put their commission in. So the biggest thing at any closing we find is the commissions, right? Everybody's like, oh, here's my commission statement, here's my commission statement. Well, you can go in and upload your commission statement in the system and also put the dollar amounts in.
Beautiful.
So I come to the and it populates right into, in real time, right into
Your
the
folder.
CD,
Right.
right into the closing disclosure.
Wow.
So, you know, as you circulate it, you should be able to get everything right. So if there's a question about the commission at the table, it's all of their information.
So I could upload like a picture that says like "Go Yankees" and it'll go in the closing.
Well,
Do you
it
check
won't
it?
pull that data because it's not a smart tagged. Yeah.
So Dan, I appreciate your time. I'm sure you guys learned a lot. If you have any questions, though, how can folks reach out? You know,
Sure. Balkun Title and Closing. Our website, www.balkuntc.com. You can reach me directly at dan@balkuntc.com.
beautiful.
Office number is 401-369-9100. You can visit us at any of our beautiful locations at this point. We have Warwick, Rhode Island. We have New Bedford, Massachusetts. And our newest location in Westerly, Rhode Island.
Beautiful.
So thank you for having me today, Greg.
Yeah,
Good
man,
seeing
right
you,
on.
friend.
And
Yeah.
before I go, who cut your hair?
Billy Conti,
Billy Conti. Who's
Gallery Salon on the east side.
Salon? Wow. See, I go to Nino's Village Barbershop on West or Warwick Avenue. I gotta try this salon.
Yeah.
Do
He
they
can
wash
cut a
it
hair.
too?
He can cut a hair 3 times as it falls off your head. It's amazing. Edward Scissorhands. Yeah. Cut that hair in 3 pieces.
Cool, man.
No, great.
Again, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Good
I had a
seeing
great
you.
time.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for Dan, you can reach out. Any questions for me, post a comment below and I'll get right back to you. Once again, Greg at Balkun Title and Closing.
Mhm.
Your property managed.